What is going on, you beautiful people? This is the last time I'm going to be in my MMA gym. And that's because we are moving locations. We are getting a bigger and better facility. I actually haven't seen it other than pictures they've posted on their Instagram page. I'm so excited because there's more equipment. They have a cage, so I'll start sparring in an MMA cage. They have a bigger gym space so I can get better video footage with my workouts, and I'm just really excited. And it's closer to home. This gym right now that we're in is 30 minutes away from where I live. The new gym's much closer. It's about 15 minutes. I'm really happy. I wanted to talk about what I've learned over the past 6 months I've been here, why I started my MMA journey, and the challenges and obstacles I had to face and overcome and get to where I am now, even though I'm still learning as much as I can and there's still so much. That's really what's pushing me to stay in the MMA space, adopt this into my lifestyle and make it my own. Why did I start MMA, and what were you afraid of at the beginning? I started MMA because I felt like over the years of weightlifting and powerlifting, when I came out of high school as a junior, I played football, and that's when I started really getting into the weights, going to the gym, and figuring out how strong I was. And I made fitness and working out part of my life over time. But it came to a point where I was like, there's got to be more I can do with my body. I felt very confident in my physique and what I was able to achieve. I never did any shows or competitions, and I'm open to it. After working out for so long and just getting stronger and stronger, and then, I'd reached a plateau and then figure out how to get past that plateau, I still looked at myself and I was like, I can do a little bit more. I enjoyed boxing workouts, watching boxing, and I really adopted the life as a boxer of running like one and jumping rope like one. But I was like, maybe there's something here in the boxing world that I can really get into. And I never really thought about sparring. And I never really thought about MMA, mainly because I was afraid. I was afraid to get hit. I was afraid to start something new and look embarrassing. I'm someone who always wants to grow as a human being and reach my fullest potential. It was a fear of mine to look silly while learning something new and knowing that it'll take years to really master this craft. I've still met people who've been doing this for decades and they're like, I'm still trying to learn. It's less about trying to master it, but more about growing through it and seeing how you can get better each day. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey, and the journey is the most important part of what I've learned of the past 6 months. I've been here. So I had the thought in the back of my mind, what if I start MMA? What if I pursue this? Every single time I made an excuse. I'm an actor and model. If I get hit and I get a black eye or bruises, I can't get auditions and I can't do self-tapes. I didn't tell my agent that I started MMA and there's a whole thing, or maybe I'm not good enough. It was like a excuse after excuse situation on why I shouldn't do MMA. But I really had to sit down with myself and say, how do I want to grow as a human being and reach my fullest potential as a human? And I think that's what everybody should pursue in their life. And so I said, I got to face my fears. And one of my fears was getting hurt, MMA. So I pursued it. I tried a free class at many different MMA gyms before here. And I took a jiu-jitsu class. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I didn't really understand the concept of jiu-jitsu and what the point of it was. I took a Muay Thai class. That was difficult. I took a boxing class, and I knew a little bit about boxing, so I felt comfortable doing that. I was afraid to get hurt, so I never pursued it. What was your biggest fear or insecurity walking into your first class? Oh my God. My biggest insecurity when I came into jiu-jitsu class, it was no gi. And I didn't know the difference between gi and no gi, but it was a no gi class. I showed up and there were all these guys, they were all like wrestling, and I didn't understand what jiu-jitsu was, so I was kind of coming into class. I had a YouTube and Google. I was like, what should I expect in jiu-jitsu class? And it said that it'll teach you some techniques and then you go straight into sparring. You go into rolling is what they call it in jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, I don't know anything. I showed up to class. I remember the instructor came in and he had a protege with him. He was also teaching the class. He told me to, he said, come up here. And he had a partner. He was teaching a technique, a drill, and it was more wrestling focused. And he was like, what do you know? I was like, I don't know. This is my first day. And he was like, okay, what techniques do you know, if any? I was like, I don't know a single thing. He was like, I'm going to teach you how to shoot. So he taught me how to shoot. And he said, drill that for a little bit. I drilled that. And then I just watched everybody roll and spar. I just remember the first day I asked so many questions. I was like, why do you do that? What's the position? What's the concept of Jiu-Jitsu? Why do you do what you do? And I was literally like a student asking so many different questions. I felt insecure because I felt out of place. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know what was going on. And the only thing I could do was just ask questions. And I felt almost like a nuisance because I kept asking so many questions to different people. It was taking them away from rolling or learning their techniques. They were like, listen, you're fine. Everybody starts somewhere and it's totally acceptable. The community here is something that was really surprising to me because they were so very helpful because they knew what it was like to start jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, or boxing from the beginning. And so they were very helpful and patient with me when I asked all these questions about what was going on. How has MMA changed you mentally and emotionally, not just physically? It's changed me mentally because it's helped me put my ego aside in not just jiu-jitsu or any MMA, but in my life, knowing that when you get on the mat, everyone is trying to learn their own technique at their own pace. You have what they call spazzy white belts when they're just trying to be very vigorous and they're doing as much as they can in a short amount of time. It gets daunting. When they're ego driven, they just want to muscle everything. They're not trying to learn or work with a partner and not have, flow rounds, which I understand the importance of flow rounds now. They didn't have the student mentality that I was also developing. I mean, I came in here, I was like, I think the best way for me to win was to muscle everything, but it wasn't about winning, it was about learning. And learning doesn't have to take muscle, it just takes patience. So I was patient. I knew that I would get submitted by practically everybody I rolled with, and it would be embarrassing because you'd have someone who's half your size running circles around you in terms of their technique and fluid their movements were compared to me. It took patience, and I still asked so many questions. What was the hardest moment in the last 6 months, and what kept you going? The hardest moments while I was learning MMA was actually the time that I wasn't here. It wasn't the time that I was in jiu-jitsu class and I couldn't get a technique down, or I was getting submitted over and over again, and it wasn't when I was sparring in Muay Thai and I kept getting hit in the head because I didn't have my guard up, or getting hit in the leg because I wasn't checking my kicks. And it wasn't when I was getting gassed out in my boxing classes. It was when I wasn't here, when I was at home. Those physically vigorous and mentally taxing classes of jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and boxing, it got daunting. I was like, I don't want to come back to class. When I went home, I was like, I don't really want to do that again. And that was the hardest moment. Sitting at home and just second guessing if I should come back to class because I know how hard it's going to be. It took a lot of willpower. It took a lot of discipline to say, no, I need to go to class. Or I can stay in for a little bit. It doesn't hurt. I had many days like that. I had many days where I decided to stay in when I could have went to class. And I made excuses. I was like, I got more content to work on, or I got to listen to my body. I'm not really going to roll today. Over time, in the back of my mind, that little voice was just eating at me because it said that you got to show up to class. This is not you. If you want to reach your fullest potential, you got to put yourself out there, even if it's hard, even if it hurts. You still got to show up to class. It wasn't the days that was hard in class, it was the days that I wasn't in class and deciding to come back to class, even when I knew it was going to be hard. What's been your proudest moment in training so far? I think my proudest moment in training was actually seeing the progress. I came into this MMA gym feeling very confident in boxing. I knew I liked boxing beforehand. I liked the training that they did, and I started doing boxing. But when I started taking gi jiu-jitsu classes and no gi jiu-jitsu classes, I really liked it because it was so, obviously it's physical, but it's a mental game too. It's like chess. You got to figure out where your opponent's going to be and try to beat them to it and just flow with them and submit them. Over time, I'd get submitted and submitted over and over again, but over time I'd notice that I could last in a round a little bit longer, or I was getting in better positions and holding them a bit longer, or passing their guard, and I could hold my own. It was just seeing those small progress over time that I felt really proud of. Like, I'm doing something here. And then when you get a submission, I felt pretty good. But that wasn't my goal focus. My goal focus was to make sure they didn't pass my guard or go into side control and mount and then back control, not with ease, but I could get to one position to another and focus on that instead of just submissions. Submissions did feel good. I was pretty proud of that. What advice would you give to someone who's scared to start MMA? Listen, I was exactly where you were. 6 months ago, when I started MMA, I was scared to get hit. No one wants to get hurt. So why would you pursue this? I mean, I was scared to get hit. And I had the option to take classes like boxing, where it was just hitting a heavy bag, or learning technique training, where you wouldn't spar with anyone. In jiu-jitsu, it's a little bit different because you'd actually have to roll. Technically, it's sparring, it's a live fighting with another person during the class. They would teach you 30 minutes of a technique, and 30 minutes you would spar it. You would spar live rounds. But I knew that I could take boxing classes or take Muay Thai classes or whatever my MMA gym had to offer. I didn't have to fight anybody, but I was still scared. I realized that I was scared to look silly. I was scared to start something new. And I was also scared because I didn't want to push myself. I didn't know if I could push myself. There would be moments in class where you're hitting the bag and you have to keep going, but you're so tired and you don't want to go back to class after that because it was so physically taxing and daunting. You know how much it takes to push yourself. And I didn't know if I could do that, continue to push myself. That was pretty scary. The biggest motivator that helped me was the community and telling myself that this is what it takes to grow. You got to push yourself. You got to feel the feelings of what it's like to not want to come back to class and still deciding to come back to class. That was really the motivator for me. That voice in your head saying, you don't need to go to class today. You tweaked your elbow, or you already worked out today and did a lot of cardio and pushed yourself, so you don't need to go to class. It's that little voice, that excuse that I really had to tune out and say, no, I'm still going to show up to class because I need to learn. I need to grow. And I'm going to grow by going to class. And it was tough. I showed up to class. There was many times where I just wanted to puke on the mat. I pushed myself, but that's what made me love it the most, because of the community here helping me and guiding me. It was seeing those little progressive moments of being able to last longer and push harder. But that's because I kept showing up, and I hope you do too. And it all takes a step. I'll leave it with this. I'm still a white belt. I have no stripe. I'm not really seeking higher belts, even though that is in my future, blue belt, purple belt, black belt, brown belt, all that. I'm really seeking to learn and grow in Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and MMA as a whole, and to learn different forms. But I love this, I don't know who said it, but they were like, what's the hardest belt to get? And they said black belt. That's the highest colored belt you can get, and those are the people who've been doing it for decades. And someone, I believe they were a black belt, said the hardest belt to get isn't the black belt, it's actually the white belt. Why? Because most people don't make the decision to take that first step and start because they were scared or insecure or whatever fear they have in their mind, just like me. I was scared, I was insecure, I was embarrassed to start something new. But I took that step regardless, and I got my white belt. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to continue this journey and continue to learn and grow from it. But without further ado, in case no one has told you yet today, I love you. You matter. You have value. This is the last time I'm going to be in this MMA gym because we are going to be filming and recording so much awesome content at my new MMA gym, and I'm excited to take you guys with me for a new chapter. This is very exciting because I never expected to get here so fast in 6 months. The journey was incredible, and I still have so much to learn. If this was 6 months, I can't even tell you what a year is gonna look like, or 2 years, because there's just so much I need to learn. There's still so much I'm trying to figure out, and I know that just takes time. Be patient. And I will see you guys in the next one. I love you.